All right, folks, we have one more minute. We're going to dive into our amazing coffee chat. Please, if you can, mute yourselves and we will get started.
As I look into the future without pain, I see myself being more adventurous, joyful, full of possibility.
All right, I'm still hearing a little sound, but it is 8:30, folks, and it is time to get rolling. So, good morning, everyone. My name is Gary Clark, and I am here to introduce you all to another Coffee Chats with EASC. Today's Coffee Chat is tied to workplace trends and challenges, 2023 and beyond. Today, we get to talk about how and where business is done and how it's fundamentally changed over recent years. The pandemic significantly accelerated the adoption of remote and hybrid work models. This shift impacted commercial real estate and caused management to rethink company culture. Employers have also become increasingly cognizant of the importance of employee well-being and are recognizing that the ROI for both the business and employees when it comes to diverse hiring practices and creative inclusive work environments is imperative. Artificial intelligence has become accessible to the everyday office, and with the rapid pace of technological advancements, there are now new concerns regarding skills gap between the abilities employees have and skills needed for emerging roles. During this coffee chat, we welcome local experts to discuss what the 2023 workplace looks like today and how current trends will continue to change the way we work. Joining us to speak on this topic today are none other than Dan Harden, who is the Senior Managing Director with Newmark. Dan, welcome. And also, we have Morgan Mason, Area Director with Terrace Staffing. Morgan, welcome. We have, again, another amazing panelist, Amy Paquette, who is the Data Analytics Program Manager with the Northwest Innovation Resource Center. And we are really, really thankful for having you here today, Amy. We also have the outstanding Kathy Solberg, who is the founder and CEO of Common Unity. Kathy, welcome. And last but not least, we have Tracy Warren, who is the founder and CEO of InSpark. Folks, we are thankful to have you. You can unmute just to say hi really quickly to the folks.
Morning. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning, everybody.
All right.
Morning.
Thank you all. So before we begin, though, we have some housekeeping rules. We want to make sure that you submit your questions as you wish in the chat. We're going to have some rapid fire questions. The panelists will answer these questions in the chat and on screen, but largely the long end questions should be answered in chat. And please make sure that each of you have joined us this morning, that you put in the chat your name, your company, and who you're with, and maybe even what you're interested in learning today. So we'll start things off with some questions for our panelists. And let's make sure here that we have, let me make sure I can spotlight each of you just to be safe. If you don't mind, I know you all have your video faces on, so it should be good to go. And the first question is going to be tied to the pandemic, actually. So I don't want to scare anyone. And please feel free, if you want to ask initial questions, you are more than welcome to do so, but I want to make sure that we have our 5 panelists in. It looks like we do. So let's get the show on the road here. I'll make sure that I spotlight myself. Okay, folks, we'll begin today by discussing co-working. While co-working spaces were popular pre-pandemic, they have become even more desirable post-pandemic. According to JLL, co-work space accounts for 1.67% of total office space in the US and about 113.7 million square feet of commercial real estate, with many of the facilities expanding beyond central business districts and into the suburban areas. With us today, we have Tracy Warren. Tracy is the founder and CEO of NSpark. Tracy, please tell us a little bit about NSpark and your mission.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I love this opportunity. So NSpark started in 2017. We were the first co-working space in Snohomish County. I am happy to say there are now 7 co-working spaces in Snohomish County. And really my mission is about community, that a lot of us work in a silo, or we work at Starbucks, or we work by ourselves. And I am an extrovert, and that does not work for me. So I need to be around other people, and I knew that there were other people that needed that as well. And so that's really the mission, is about giving a new space for productivity, creativity, and community.
All right. Thank you very much. And I see people are commenting on the inside here. Number 2, in your experience, how has co-working space evolved over the last 2 years? Post-pandemic?
Well, yeah, I think the big guys have gotten bigger and the independent guys have closed a lot. So WeWork, Regus, they have grown because they have the capacity to do that. In King County alone, in the last 3 years, half the co-working spaces have closed. And so that is one thing that has changed, which makes me even more passionate about supporting independent owners. It's just a different model. It's a different feel. One time I got a review that said I wasn't all hipster like a lot of the Seattle places, and I felt like I had won the internet on that day. So that's how the trends have really changed. So
Okay. And for startups, are there cost savings when utilizing the co-work space versus traditional office space?
there are so many cost savings. So one, when you walk in the door here, I have everything you need. We have printing and coffee and really fast internet that isn't available to home folks. So those are 3 of the really big benefits. And I know you're about to ask me another question where I can tell you the rest of them.
Okay. All right. Nice assist there, Tracy. Could you provide examples of some resources that might be found at your facility or other co-work spaces that wouldn't be available to someone working from home or in a traditional office setting?
I think the biggest benefit resource is people. I don't know how to make an Excel formula to save my life. But if I needed to make one, I know there's someone here that would help me. The people who've been members here have been members for a really long time, so it feels more like a family. We definitely jab each other. I am usually the brunt of most jabs, which is totally fine. I could take it. But even the other day, somebody had a question about, how do I do this form in Microsoft Word? And someone was able to help her. She's actually on the call right now because she's a member of NSpark. But so I think the being around other people, that's where like you get accountability. Like working from home, it's really easy for me to put on a Law and Order marathon and sort of work. Well, here, everyone is working, and so the expectation is we're here to work. And yes, we can have some fun in the meantime, but it's really the people and the community that is the added benefit.
Okay, all right, Tracy. So I have one final question for you here. What do you forecast for the future of co-working? Look into your crystal ball.
My hope. So here's what I think happened. So if we had gone into March 2020 and COVID had been like, let's lock down, we're done in 3 months, I think COVID or co-working spaces would be thriving. But what has happened is, or what I believe has happened, is a lot of people got really good at working from home. And most small business owners I know are lonelier than they have ever been and are struggling mightily to just keep pushing forward. And so there's still a lot of business owners I talk to that have no idea what co-working is. Even as it's growing within our county specifically. And so my hope is that people will see it as an option, like a super affordable way to combat loneliness in a completely unexpected way. That is my hope for the future of co-working.
All right. Well, Tracy, I think that was amazing. You gave some very detailed responses and answers, information that I'm pretty sure our audience had not been aware of before. So we are going to transition to what we call workplace culture. So we want to talk a little bit about the rise of the remote work, which is accelerated by the events of the past few years. It's shattered the traditional confines of what we call office, giving rise to a distributed workforce that is connected by digital threads. With this technical revolution, a spotlight has been cast on the significance of employee well-being and the integration of personal values with professional pursuits. Company culture is changing and leaders must evolve with it. Here to dive into this topic is none other than one of our community partners and amazing leaders, Kathy Solberg. And again, Kathy is the founder and CEO of Common Unity. Kathy, thank you for joining us this morning again. All right, I am going to throw a couple questions at you, Kathy. Number one, please tell us a little bit about Common Unity and your approach when talking about your services.
Thanks. I will, I'll dive into the work culture in just a minute, but Common Unity is the name of my business, and the tagline is creating unity for the common good. It really kind of sums up what I do in bringing people together to be better teams, better organizations, better individuals. And in short, my services that I provide through that umbrella are to convene, facilitate, and consult. So whether it's collective governance or strategic planning, or just how you can optimize your systems, I tend to work with a human systems design approach and try to figure out how I'm rather obsessed with looking at systems and then looking at the past 4 years to figure out how we move ahead. I have a lot of tools in my toolbox and strengths and trust inventories, and a lot of those are the tools. But really anything about community, whether it be growing it, assessing it, building it, or supporting it, is the foundation of my work.
All right, thank you, Kathy. And could you provide some examples of current workplace challenges you're hearing about from your clients?
Ooh. I can. I hear a lot from specifically government and nonprofit. I've seen it happening in business too. People are not defining what work looks like. They are, some people are afraid that they will lose the employees that they're having trouble retaining. Some people don't want or fear of litigation. There are just so many reasons that people are not defining what the structure of our working environment, and they're just hoping that it works out. So you tell 12 managers just work it out, and then you have 13 different working structures in one environment. And so I think, like right now, professionally, everybody is struggling with people issues. They're struggling with hiring staff. They're struggling with finding volunteers. They're struggling with keeping their boards. And then after they finally hire their staff, can they retain them? And so that list on a professional level goes on. Personally, that impacts the workplace. Burnout, we're just on the edge of what I think is, everybody really has such a sense of overwhelm. They are going through the world like this with their heads down and just hoping that this all works out. And they're overworked, unclear about their tasks, and then they don't necessarily feel connected or unseen. But other than that, I think everything in the workplace is going great.
All right, thanks, Kathy. I guess when you're talking about that, according to your website, obviously you provide a service in consulting folks on retention, as you were just mentioning. Could you share some of your best practices for employers looking to retain their staff and maybe offset the rates that they see today?
I think it's imperative to invest in your employees right now. Develop and manage them well. We don't have a lot of, we believe we don't have a lot of time to manage or money to develop. I think our employees need to be considered as organizational capital and treated as such. And we need to find a reframe reference to realize that our employees are the key to our success. And when you mentioned earlier culture, I hear, I've done some presentations recently on a culture of mattering. I'm very big on, there's some studies that have come out around mattering, fairness, and wellness, and just looking at that impact of that three-sided triangle. And going back to work that Martin Luther King did around beloved community. And then that beloved community work, Thich Nhat Hanh was so inspired by that. He considered that his life's work. And the foundation there is just being seen, heard, and loved. And you might not be able to wrap your head around taking love into the workplace, but maybe you could take valued or recognized. And the problem is that we may have the right people, but they may not. We need to open up, like, what is needed now? What are our organizational outcomes? And some people, you can keep your people, but if you learn their strengths and capacities, then you might need to just shuffle things to get it done in the right way. So I think we need to work to see our employees as individuals, realize they just want to be that loneliness epidemic I mentioned in the chat. People just need to be seen. And then all our staff, need to know how to give and receive feedback so we can create that loop of productivity in our workplace. And one other quick piece is I've kind of taken in a pandemic result is I'm into community weaving, but it's weaving people, but it's also physically creating weavings, because people don't see where they fit in our systems anymore. And so how do we create how do we just appeal to everybody?
Yeah.
I'm gonna stop right there.
No, I appreciate that, Kathy. Another question for you is tied to hybrid work. So how is hybrid work affecting company culture, and what are some best practices for managers with distributed teams looking to improve or maintain company culture?
I think it goes back to, you have to define it. And what are your expectations within the workplace, and what does that look like? And it's not necessarily a certain hours, but it goes back to defining our jobs and what are we supposed to do and what do those key performance indicators look like and what do those outcomes look like, and then how do you create the opportunity for us to be in the same place at sometimes, because it's invaluable what can come out of us being together. And I met with a leader in King County last week who said 50% of our office buildings are at diminished capacity. And, so how are we dealing with that? Yet 90% of our organizations have hybrid models. So when we look at workplace challenges right now, post-COVID, people have, there was a Harvard study that came out that said like 85% of workers' general well-being is challenged, and we just need to define best practices and stick to what those look like, and don't shy away to creating a place with structure.
That's excellent. Kathy, I have one final question for you on this particular topic. Do you have any predictions for the future of workplace in terms of culture and leadership approach to management?
It feels kind of bold to make a prediction. So I went for it, and I'm usually pretty positive, but I think it's gonna get worse before it gets better. I like to say that if systems change was easy, somebody would have done it by now. And we need to have incremental changes. So I think we need a willingness. I wrote down 5 things that we need a willingness to do in the next couple years. And the first thing is to admit that we don't know all we think we know. And because we've always done it this way, it doesn't work. So we have to analyze our workplace and look at where we've come from in the last 4 years. And that human systems design model is what, so what, now what, and figure that out. We have to prioritize knowing our employees and allocating them within our workforce to be in the right job at the right place. We've got to work together, and we have to collaborate and learn how to be stronger, not in our own silos. And then we kind of need to bring in empathy and compassion to our workplaces and realize that mental health, anxiety, and overwhelm are more prevalent than ever. And I think if those things aren't done, I think 2023, we're going to get through it, and 2024, things are going to blow up because we're ignoring them and keeping our heads down. And unless we take some of those steps and have those 5 willingnesses, is that a word? Then we're really 24 is gonna be hard. And I think we can take steps to set ourselves up for 2025 to really be on an upward trajectory, but it's not a short haul.
Wow.
Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Kathy. I appreciate it. Commercial real estate, folks. Commercial real estate plays a critical role in our economy. It provides space for businesses to operate and generates employment opportunities with properties such as office buildings, retail spaces, hotels, industrial facilities. But in recent years, the commercial real estate industry has undergone significant changes. Leasing velocity slowed down, while data shows that commercial real estate lending activity is increasingly engaged in growth weekly. So here to provide us with industry expertise on how the evolution of how we work is impacting commercial real estate is none other than Dan Harden, Senior Managing Director with Newmark. Dan, we see you enjoying the ambiance of the outdoors. Tell us a little bit about Newmark and the services.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So Newmark is an international real estate firm that handles everything from brokerage to property management to appraisal. My team and my partner specifically work in Seattle on the east side, and we go up the 405 and I-5 corridor. We primarily handle office space on behalf of institutions. We do some work for family offices as well as some private equity, but the bulk of our portfolio is is again office. We have some flex work as well, which would be sort of defined as light industrial. So yeah, that's our focus.
All right, all right. Well, thank you for starting off with that. And have you seen a rebound in office leasing activity in our region since the shift to remote work during the pandemic?
I would say that there's a couple different things going on. One, tech demand is very low, and it doesn't take that much research to look in the news and find out that most of the tech employees are working from home, and so the need for office spaces is not what it was in 2019 or before. Professional services and companies that sort of need to be in office or meeting with clients or have more collaboration, those companies are coming back. Those companies are leasing space. So you're seeing CPA, legal, finance tends to be in office right now, but tech is definitely the kind of anchor on the demand side. I would say that's also giving rise to more alternative uses in the market. For example, medical or schools, religious facilities, those tend to be the types of uses that battle for space in a good market, but tend to lose against, the professional services and the tech space. And so as you start to see demand go away from some of those traditional markets, that's when alternative uses gives rise. So for example, with our portfolio here in the past year, we've signed leases with schools, we've signed leases with mental health facilities. These are all spaces that traditionally have been leased to. One of them was considered by Google at one point. We've had spaces that were occupied by large traditional office corporate headquarters that are now schools. So you're seeing a little bit of that rise, but tech is definitely the lagging metric or demand metric right now.
All right, all right. Well, while there may be a surplus of office space available, it seems as though there's a shortage of larger commercial facilities in our region, Daniel. And so have you noticed a shift from developers and the types of commercial space they're building?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's again kind of centered around that demand side. I mean, fortunately, this cycle, many of the developers on the office side were conservative. They tended to favor pre-leases versus going spec. There were a few that did go spec, meaning you develop the office without a lease in place. But it's not to the level that you're going to have some mass supply on the market that's going to drag everything down. So from that perspective, we've been fortunate. Certainly, developers are favoring multifamily right now. There's a lot of multifamily development happening all over. The debt markets are making the go forward plans on that challenging, but there's still quite a bit of development. And then there's industrial development too, and that's been something that here in our region there's definitely a lack of supply of, and people are taking advantage of that. So it kind of depends on the space that you're in. But yeah.
All right, Dan. So, excuse me. What about adaptive reuse, though? We're seeing many older buildings out there. Are you seeing those being utilized because they're represented right now, underutilized? And how are we repurposing those spaces, or are we at all? Can you give some examples?
In our region, it's tough. I mean, that's a question that a lot of people are asking right now. I'd say, on the office side, there's definitely a school of thought that, sort of the class B- and below assets may actually fall to the wayside, in favor of more class A assets. And so what do you do with those buildings? Well, in our markets, people have been looking at it from, for example, multifamily conversions, but haven't been able to sort of make them work. You have a number of different challenges. I mean, in Seattle, there's seismic issues that can be incredibly costly to take a, call it early 1900s vintage office building and transition that into multifamily. From a seismic standpoint, it can make it such that even if you got the property for free, you still wouldn't be able to make it pencil. The other issues you have are just the design of office buildings compared to multifamily projects. for example, in multifamily projects, the bay depth between the core and the outside of the building tends to be more limited, right? And that's to increase the amount of window line that a multifamily unit would have. Well, in office spaces, it's actually designed such that you may have more depth, right? And so as you go through and you say, okay, well, let's put, we have a core of the building and let's put multifamily units around it, building to what the market would expect. In many instances, what you end up are just bowling alley spaces with not a lot of window line. And so architects are grappling with trying to figure out how to make this work, but I can't really point to an example here in our region that's, moving forward, at least within our market right now, on that conversion. What you are seeing is, and this was a big trend through the pandemic, but people trying to convert office or flex spaces to be life science compatible. We do a lot of that in Bothell, and that's kind of the sister hub to South Lake Union. So there's been quite a bit of conversion, and we had that runs the gamut from everything from older flex industrial spaces that were traditionally leased to, let's say, a contractor, all the way to office spaces, to even some data center type spaces that have a lot of power but weren't traditionally focused on that type of use. So there is quite a bit of conversion of that space. The challenge with that is that the demand is very focused in very specific centers. Like tech, these companies like to cluster around one another. And so while people have said, I'd like to do this in Bellevue with my building, or I'd like to do this in Kirkland, or I'd like to do this in Everett, these companies like the cluster. And so Bothell, at least on the east side, has been the focus there.
Well, folks, Dan is going to answer this question, and all of commercial real estate humanity rests on his answer here. Okay. What do you forecast for the future of commercial real estate?
It's a good question. I would say, real estate is just another asset class within finance, right? And so you sort of have two sides of it, which is, the tenants and the landlords. I'd say from the tenant perspective, there's definitely, this existential question as to what is office moving forward. It feels like, from what we're seeing, many of the companies, both large and small, are favoring wanting to get their employees back. Amazon's a good example of this, called their employees back here second quarter. Facebook, here in I think it's a week or two, are bringing their employees back. It seems like the companies are attempting to bring their employees back. What we have seen traditionally is that what the big companies do, the medium and small companies try and emulate. And so you would think if they're successful, you'll start to have some of the smaller companies, bring employees back as well. There's been a fundamental shift here in the past year, I would say, from companies wanting to vacate spaces or put spaces on the market to sublease, versus many of these companies are now holding on to their space, albeit short term, because of this flux. They don't know how they're going to use their space long term. And so, long way of saying, once that equation figures itself out, and if people do come back as a result of it, I think you'll start to see demand come back, which gets to the other side of the equation for landlords. Landlords can buy and sell real estate based on the fact that they have tenancy, right? Your revenue is your tenant. You pay expenses to get those tenants. And so from a landlord perspective, once you start to have demand come back, then you can start to model and pro forma what office space looks like again. And so those two are connected. And then over the umbrella of all of this is the turbulence in the debt markets right now. And as we all know, the debt markets are upside down. And so there's really, I would say the two things in the future of real estate is you need the debt markets to sort of soften out and start to become a little more predictable. And then you need demand come back, and you get those two things, and you'll start to see, real estate values go down. There will be a trough, and then you'll get value add buyers back in the market, and we'll begin the cycle again. So we're just sort of, I would say, in the downward, maybe coming to the bottom, maybe not, of the cycle right now.
All right. Thanks, Dan. That was an excellent answer. Okay, now we get to move on to AI at work. Artificial intelligence is fundamentally transforming the way we work across various industries and sectors. Here to offer expert insights into AI at work is Amy Paquette. who is actually the data analytics program manager with the Northwest Innovation Resource Center. Amy, please tell us more about Northwest Innovation Resource Center and the services you offer.
Great. Thank you so much. It's an honor to be with all of you today. Thank you so much for the invite. So the NWIRC really started in about 10, 12 years ago, working with entrepreneurs, taking them from conception all the way to validation to having access to funders. And then, you know, COVID happened. And one of the things we realized in the same time that we were working with our entrepreneurs and all of those things happening is that in order to be innovative, you have to have data. Data is the foundation of innovation. It tells you what you've been doing, what you need to be doing, and where you need to be going. And in order to do that well, you have to know how to look at it, how to analyze it, what is it saying, and then how to tell somebody about it. And so that's what we've been really focusing on these last few years, helping small businesses and individuals learn how to look at data, tackle data, and understand data in a way that they can use it quickly and easily within their businesses. So we do that through our data workshop and also through our data boot camp. In addition, we still do our work with entrepreneurs. So it has been an exciting time, I have to say.
Amy, what are some current ways you're finding that businesses are using AI?
Well, you know, I think the first thing to realize with AI is that we have all been using this for quite a while. And I appreciate you using the word expert earlier, but I'm telling you, nobody's an expert in AI except for maybe AI. So, but you know, you can see it already in customer service. All of us, well, not all of us, me, because I'll speak for myself because I'm a geek, love using the little chat. I don't want to talk to anybody. I want to use the chat. It takes care of those things, right? Cybersecurity. I know there's some IT people on today. I'm sure they're seeing cybersecurity and AI, you know, go through the roof. And then of course, how we manage our relationships with our donors, with our clients, all of those things. Those are kind of the main top three if you look at Forbes and across businesses, how they're using AI. But that's just the cusp, you know, it's growing every day. And that's one of the points I want to make too, is that, you know, AI is already been happening. We've been doing it for years. It just feels like all of a sudden, because now it's more open source, you know, ChatGPT has allowed us to access it in a way that we haven't been able to before. And so now it feels like all of a sudden it may feel like all of a sudden it's here, but it's been around for a while.
Okay, all right. Well, Amy, are there some ways or examples that you could provide to us that we could use AI to help us be more efficient in our workplace or in other ways?
Yeah, I think, you know, one of the things that's interesting, and we find this with data, AI, all of those things, is it tends to get siloed within the tech, you know, that's an IT thing, that's an accounting thing, that's a finance thing, but really data, AI, all of that can impact every aspect of the business. And so a few things that, you know, where AI could be used, I think more effectively is with looking at biases and ethics that we use. Do you want to know if your job description has bias in it? Run it through an AI, you know, to take a look at it. Are the interview questions biased? Take a look at it. You know, those are some HR ways. And look at environmental sustainability. Are we using our businesses? I mean, I think this goes right to Daniel's point of looking at commercial real estate. Are they being used efficiently for energy usage or things like that? AI can help with that. And then also predictive. What do we need to plan for in the future? And I'll tell you, COVID threw all of our predictions out the window when you look at a lot of things in regard to people, into supply chain, you know, things like that. So the data from the past may not give us where we should be going in the future. So we're going to have to look at our predictive analysis in a different way, and AI can help us do that faster.
All right, Amy. So I guess you kind of delved into this question a little bit, but as far as routine tasks that AI can currently handle, that frees up things in human resources or what have you, do you have any examples of strategies based on that?
Oh yeah, I mean, you know, if you look at the routine tasks, you know, when you look at social media, emails, customer support, invoicing, I mean, all of those things. But I also know that causes a lot of fear because there's a sense of, is my job going to go away, right? If AI comes, and I won't be able to do this anymore. And so I think that while we can look at AI impacting every aspect of our jobs and what we do, the human element is still critical, and especially when it comes to critical thinking. I use AI all the time, and I have to find that I can't just take what it gives me and put it out there. I have to look at it, make sure it sounds the way I want it to sound. Does it mark my brand? Does it mark it, what my intent is? And so I think that the sky's the limit when it comes to the what the routine tasks are, but it still is going to require that human, element that's going to come with it. So if you're not sure what AI can do, ask it. It'll tell you. So it's very open with what it can do for your company.
Okay. With that in mind, then, Amy,
Mhm.
can AI help businesses make better decisions based on data insights? Really?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one of the things, well, let's put it this way. Data AI is only as good as the stuff you put into it, right? So first of all, you have to make sure your data or the information is clean and ready to be used, right? So assuming that, which is a big assumption, absolutely it can help you become more efficient, look at your data, faster, like I said, make more predictions, but also storytell. I think that's one of the things that we don't talk a lot about with data, right? Is how do we tell the story about what we're learning in a way that may inspire people or motivate people or persuade people. And AI can also help with those words and that language and the visuals on that too. So it's definitely the decision making across the board in all companies, I think, can go, could be open.
All right, Amy, not to liken you to Nostradamus or Ms. Cleo, but can you predict how there are other ways that businesses might use AI in the future?
Yes. And I have to tell you, this is just my personal bias, but I do think we should start getting a little more nervous about AI, because as it gets more information into it, the question is going to come up, what about sort of the emotional side of AI? So what I mean by that is one question we talk about, we've already mentioned this today, employee feel, how do they feel in the workplace? Are they finding satisfaction in their work? Well, people are going to start using AI to judge that. They're going to be little devices. Hey, why did you wear this? We're going to see how much do you walk around? How much water are you drinking? How much, So it's all going to be sort of couched in the idea of employee health. But that's, there's a dangerous side to that, right? So I think we also need to, we talked about the ethics and bias, great way to look at that, unless we want to tip it another way. So, the thing is with all data, with all technology, there's always a dark side. And so I think we need to be aware of that. Again, critical thinking, I cannot stress that enough, is the key to keep us from our robot overlords. And at the same time, I think it's also going to get even better. It's going to become more refined. We're going to be able to do better when it comes to looking at data, to making those decisions. We're going to get out of silos of looking at the past. So there's some great things about it, but I also predict that it's going to be a very turbulent time the next few years.
All right. Thank you, Amy. That was excellent. We really appreciate that. And we're going to move on to what is our final topic of the discussion today, which is staffing and the workforce. So gone are the days of traditional 9-to-5 roles tethered to physical office spaces. The lines between remote, hybrid, and in-person work have blurred, ushering in an era where geographical barriers no longer confine career opportunities. And that moves us to another point, which is really clearly stated as, in recent years, as we've seen, the rise of the gig economy, the proliferation of the flexible work arrangements, and the increased emphasis on skills or credentials. Here to help us dive into this evolution of job search and workforce dynamics is none other than Morgan Mason, Area Director for Terra Staffing Group. Morgan, thanks for being patient with us. And we'd like to ask you to tell us a little bit more about your organization.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me today. I'm very excited to be here and kind of share some of the things that I've been seeing in our local community. So As Gary said, my name is Morgan Mason. I'm an area director at Terra Staffing Group. Terra is a staffing and recruiting firm. We are headquartered in Everett. So we've been in business for 40 years and we've been in Snohomish County for 40 years. So that's something that we take very seriously and we care a lot about our community. Over the course of that time, though, we've grown a lot. So we're in 9 states across the US. From Chicago all the way out here to Washington. So we've definitely grown a lot. We specialize in manufacturing. Anything you need from like kind of entry level, I need somebody to come in and build boxes, to skilled management director level placements. So we have a team that manages the more professional and engineering side of work, as well as our local branches are handling the kind of the more base manufacturing. So short-term placements, long-term placements, as you said, like gig economy style placements, we do that as well. And yeah, it's a lot of fun to work in this market.
Well, I mean, Morgan, I guess the question is, what are you seeing as far as trends, as far as job seekers in this area who are looking for work right now?
Yeah. That's a great question. So job seekers, the job seeker trends have been really interesting to watch over the course of the last few years. I know, so I've been with Terra now for almost 12 years. And in that time, the world has changed. So I can remember back to the days of calling somebody and offering them a $12 an hour job. And they were very excited to hear from me and said, I thank you, I can pay my rent. Now, I don't think I could ever get anybody to take my call for that. So, yeah, so it's definitely changed a lot over the last few years. Couple things that really stand out. Pay and benefits absolutely matter. As we all know, the pay transparency rules that have come down from Washington this year have made a huge impact on job seeker behavior and kind of what people are applying for and whether or not your company is getting the views and the clicks and the applies that you'd like to get. So pay transparency is absolutely a huge piece of that, as well as a competitive benefits package. So just an anecdotal example, I know last week we just offered somebody an internal position at Terra, and they were like, yeah, sure, pay, whatever. I knew what it was going to be, but I have questions about benefits. Because they really wanted to understand like what is the impact that is going to have on their lives, and they should, right? So
Absolutely.
Yeah, so absolutely, pay is a huge thing. Pay transparency, the best that you can do as an employer to communicate your pay philosophy will help you in your recruiting practices, and then benefits are competitive. With the caveat, though, of if you are looking for kind of your more entry-level wage employees, you should be focused on pay and less on benefits. So as much as I hear it all the time from employers, we have a great benefits package. We have a great benefits package, but if your hourly wage is not competitive, it doesn't matter what your benefits package is. So start with your hourly wage and then start investing in your benefits package. So. Yeah, that's my big things that employees are really caring about at this moment in the job market.
And okay, Morgan, so as far as the gig economy,
Yeah.
I'm sure you can describe to us how your business has adapted to that or figured out a way to navigate it, but also have you seen an increase in demand from job seekers for short-term or project-based?
Yeah. So we actually, it's funny that you're asking me this. We actually do a fair amount of project-based work as part of just like our normal business model. And it's also something that has kind of ebbed and flowed over the course of the last few years. So we are seeing a larger spike in that right now than we have in the last, 3 years. Back in the 2013, 2014 market, we saw a really big spike in that as well, which is really interesting to note because it was coming right out of that recession, and we saw a large spike in the more short-term type of project work. So the gig economy has had a huge impact Absolutely, it has had a huge impact on employers across the area. So, you can see it in all of the labor stats that you can find published, right? So you can see, hey, unemployment is really, really low. We're considered a full employment market. I think Snohomish County is something like 3.4%, and King County is like 3.3%. So it's a full employment market. Anybody that wants a job, full-time traditional employment, can have that type of job. But the workforce participation rate has not recovered from the pandemic. And people are absolutely supplementing with gig economy style work. So yes, I am seeing people coming to us saying, hey, I only want to work 2 days a week, or I am looking for something that's going to work around my kids' school schedule, or I'm semi-retired and I don't want to go back to full-time work, but if you had a project that came up, then I'd be interested in it. So we absolutely are seeing a spike in employees who are interested in that type of work. We're also seeing it on the employer side. We're seeing more projects coming in like that. As employers are kind of navigating this new world where they're trying to figure out, like, what does my future look like? We're seeing employers utilizing that model a lot more often for, hey, we just have this project. We don't know if it's going to go on longer than this. We just need some help right now. So yes, absolutely. We're seeing the gig economy is a huge, huge impact on our current job market.
Morgan, thank you. Are there particular industries in our region that you're seeing have a little bit more of a struggle than others? And can you describe what those are?
So as far as like gig economy work, or just struggles in general?
In general, to find work. Yeah.
Yeah. So the places where I'm seeing employers have the biggest struggle is it's really about skills. So we are blessed in Snohomish County with a very healthy manufacturing market, which is really, really cool. We've got a lot of employers that are building really cool stuff here. And we also have a significantly aging workforce. And I cannot tell you how many times I'm having conversations with companies about, I have in the next 3 to 5 years, these individuals retiring, and I have no one to take their place. Like, I'm going to lose all of their knowledge and skills. So it's less about a specific industry and more about like what is happening with the upcoming retirements that are coming out of this market, and really people's and students' interest in coming into manufacturing as a field.
Well, I guess the question moves us to the skills gap then.
Yeah.
Among 600 U.S. human resource professionals surveyed by Wiley in their latest annual closing skills gap report, listed that 69% said that their organization had a skills gap, up from 55% in a similar survey in 2021. So are you finding this to be true in your work?
Yeah, I would say the other 31% that didn't say that they have a skills gap in their organization is just not aware of it. Yes, that is absolutely true in this area, in our workforce, in every single one of my customers. We're seeing that as a problem.
So Morgan, as a follow-up, are you finding that the companies are trying to remedy that by providing professional skills training?
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen a couple of different ways that companies have really tackled this problem. Okay, I've got two that really stand out, so bear with me while I give you two examples. So one of them is a company that they're a manufacturing company. They're here in Snohomish County, and they do a really specialized thing. The pool of people that is able to do that thing is like this big, and they have this much work to do. So they really have been looking at like, how do we tackle this problem? And over the course of the last year, just over a year at this point, we've been helping them. We put together a little training class so that we can help train that skill. So we've been helping them kind of, number one, find people for the class. Number two, we've also been helping administer it, because somebody's got to like watch these employees as they're going through some training. Right. But that has had a huge impact on their overall permanent hiring. We've really been able to accelerate and make an impact on their permanent employees because of, even if we just teach this one piece of the process,
Mhm.
then this person now can do something more than what they could have done before. And now it's easier to add additional skills because I'm taking off actually a huge chunk of work because they can do this one piece of the process.
Mhm.
So I've absolutely seen companies they're doing it internally as well as investing in other like training programs. I know there are lots of training programs kind of in the area, like AJAC comes to mind for me, or just really specifically is they have that apprenticeship program, which is just really cool.
Mhm.
So partnering with companies like organizations like AJAC to help them continue to develop those skills beyond that, just like the first, like, okay, I literally, if I don't do this one thing, then I can't do anything else. So yeah, so we've seen that. My other great example is actually a manufacturing company. They're located on the east side, and they are they have a very, very diverse workforce. Something like 55 different companies or countries represented within their Redmond facility.
Mhm.
And you won't believe it, but English is the minority language spoken there. So that is a huge challenge for them as a business. So they actually have brought in teachers to help teach English as a
Excellent.
second language classes, which is super inclusive and just a great move on their part because it helps them with like employee skill development. It helps them meet their production goals. It also helps them with their overall retention strategies because these employees are feeling invested in and like they're making an impact. So.
Well, Morgan, that is excellent. You answered my second to last question, and we're running out.
Yeah, I'm skipping around on you. Sorry.
No, that's excellent. That's excellent. So I have just one remaining question that I've asked all the panelists, and so you get to put your Nostradamus hat on as well. And do you have any predictions that you're willing to share about the future of the job market?
Yeah, as far as the future of the job market, employers should really be paying attention to what's happening with their retention strategies. So investing in retention the same way that they're investing in recruiting, because ultimately the people that you have working for you now are the people that you really need to develop so that you can address the skills gap that's coming in your organization. So really thinking about investment in your current staff, your development of your current staff, that's going to help you future-proof your organization. So I can't predict what's going to happen truly in the job market, but we are continuing to be an employee job market where employees are making choices about who they're working for because of how they're treated and what their opportunities are.
All right. Thank you so much. With that, I'm going to give each of you a quick 30 seconds just to give a final closing remark to the audience. I'll start with Kathy, then Dan, then Amy and Tracy, and then last Morgan since she just closed. So take it away.
I just, what an honor to be here. Great similar threads running through all our conversations. And I just want to say that invest in people. It makes all the difference. And remember that we need to do this all incrementally. And the resources you have are better than any that you will try to get and then have to start all over again. And I'm sure all of us are here as resources if you need us.
Thank you,
Thank
Kathy.
you.
I believe Dan is next. You're muted, Dan.
Sorry. Yeah, I just want to thank everybody for the time. If there's any follow-up questions with respect to the real estate market, happy to help and happy to answer. And just appreciate everybody tuning in.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you for having me. I truly believe community changes the world, and us here together, like, we are a community, and each of us, I encourage everyone to find theirs, because that's how we battle loneliness. That's how we battle employer fatigue. It battles everything to be a part of a community.
Excellent. Thank you, Tracy and Amy.
I would say, thank you again, and including investing in people, two things. critical thinking and curiosity. Those are the 2 C's that will get us to where we need to be as a community and as an economy.
All right, thank you, Amy. And Morgan, take it away.
Yeah, thank you guys, everyone, so much for having me today. It's been great getting to hear the other presenters and learn from each of you. I would absolutely recommend everything that you can do on your retention strategies, your upskilling strategies, and I'm always happy to have a cup of coffee to talk about workplace trends and solutions. So this is a topic I'm passionate about, and I'm super excited to be here today. So thank you all for having me.
Awesome, awesome. Well, folks, thank you again for being here. I have just some final announcements. And so again, thanks to our panelists. Coming up on Thursday, which is August 24th, we have summer networking presented by Alaska Airlines and the Boeing Company. It is at the Edmonds Waterfront Center from 4 to 7. As you can see in the link, we have over 200 folks who are already registered, but that doesn't mean we don't have room for you. So please click the link in the chat and join us from 4 to 7 p.m. again. And it's an opportunity to enjoy our summer event. It's going to have the connection opportunity from Alaska Airlines celebrating the year-round new route to Honolulu from Payne Field, food, drinks, music, games, 360-degree photo booth, and more. Get your tickets by scanning the QR code on your screen or visit economicalliancesc.org. Additionally, we have a couple more items here really quickly. We have the Healthcare Summit, which is navigating the challenges and opportunities in changing landscape for healthcare. And we want to make sure that you're aware that this is happening on September 27th from 9:30 to 11 a.m. And it is at a physical location, which is Everett Community College, Henry M. Jackson Conference Center. So you can RSVP on the QR code or go to our website for that as well. Folks, with that being said, we have done it. Workplace trends and challenges. Thank you. Please open up your gallery view and we will do our parting departure with what you know is open up your gallery and pull up your coffee cups or your drinks. Put yourselves on screen if you'd like. This has been another amazing Coffee Chats with EASC. We couldn't do it without many of you who are investors, our partners, and our person behind the scenes, which is Rachel Maria, who is right there on the screen. Folks, raise these coffee cups up. Have an amazing day. And remember, you matter and businesses need people. Peace.